No! No! I mean, I want to play some poker. Oh, God. What's up, guys? Polk here, and welcome to my first ever vlog from playing at the Lodge. Now, if you guys have not heard the news, I recently became a partner at the Lodge. I decided the good way to promote the room is going to be to vlog what it's like playing at the Lodge, share with you some of my hands and sessions, and then we'll also talk about some hands I played on the stream. So, a lot of hands coming at you here shortly. Before we jump into hands, a couple things I want to get out of the way real quick. First off, I am new to vlogging, so prepare for lots of horrible camera angles, terrible camera work, missing cards, forgetting the action, being a donk. There's going to be so much of that, so just bear with me. And if you see things I can do to improve, feel free to leave some suggestions in the comments below, or just make fun of me. Either one's totally cool. Also, if you like this content format, I'm planning on doing a lot of these to help promote the room. So make sure you slap a like on the video so that I know this is something you want to see more of from me. I'm happy to do it if you guys are enjoying it. All right, here we are. Ready for our first vlog at the Lodge. I arrived to the Lodge on a Wednesday to show up and play a little bit of poker, meet some of the players in the room, and of course hop on the live stream and play a few hands. When I got there, I first met up with Skull Mike. Now, if you guys don't know who Skull Mike is, he runs the stream. You can actually contact him over on Twitter at this handle if you want to play on a Lodge live stream. He's also just an all-around great dude, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer some questions that you might have about the Lodge.
All limits games, 2-5, 5-10, 25, 50, 100, 200. So get at me. We'll be in touch, and we'll see you here at the Lodge Mahal.
100, 200 is a new thing.
It's going. We got 2 tables probably here at the end of the month here in January, the Monster Week. So if you're interested, there could be some seats open for you.
I'm a little worried we actually might have too many people. So, but we'll see. Can't be that bad. After talking with Mike, I fiddled around on my phone for far too long and then decided it was time to hop in and play. Unfortunately for me, at the Lodge, I still have to wait for the games at the bottom of the list, so sometimes it takes a little while. I'm just kidding, the seats were ready, but I wanted to defend my hairstyle on YouTube. Those guys in the comments, they can be really mean. Anyway, I head into the back to get my chips, and I have a locked box in the back. If you're going to be playing higher stakes at the Lodge, I would strongly recommend getting a box. There are still plenty available, although I don't know how long that will be for. Now, when you have a box, you're not going to have to take your money to and from the casino. You can just leave it there, lock it, and you can only open it with your key as well as one of the staff members. It's a very safe place to keep your money, and that's where I'm going to be keeping my bankroll for these games. Anyway, I go ahead and get some chips here, and I head over to the Potlam Omaha 1-2 game. Now, if you guys are new to Texas poker, 1-2 is the equivalent of a Vegas 10-20. Well, maybe not exactly, but certainly something similar. These straddles are on in this game, and a bunch of these hands are going to be straddled up. I started off bringing a few thousand to the table, and I quickly realized that was not going to be enough money for this type of game. But let's go ahead and jump into the action. Actually, before we do, let's admire my first picture I took at the table while trying to record my hole cards. It's just an image, and this is what it is. If you guys can't tell, I'm going to be a natural at this. Our first hand begins with a PLO bomb pot. If you guys are not familiar with this format, everyone puts in an amount pre-flop. I believe here it was $15, and then you play a 9-way flop with 2 boards, with half the pot going to the high hand on each board. I didn't record the flop because frankly I wasn't thinking about it and I'm a noob vlogging. However, we pick up here on the turn. I potted the flop and I got a single caller. My hand is King Jack 9-3 with 2 diamonds, so I have an extremely good hand here on the flop and especially on this turn. With King 9 on King 9-5 9-way, you're probably good, although it is fairly likely you end up versus sets in this game, and you should treat top 2 accordingly, especially when there are a lot of draws out there. Your equity is not going to be that great when you're facing a lot of action. However, with the King Jack 9-3, I also have a good hand on the other board, making this an awesome hand to bet and build value. If a player has me beat on one board, they almost certainly don't have me on the other, and I've got equity against just about anything unless someone has pocket kings. This is PLO, though. That is definitely possible. The turns are fantastic. I turned top boat with the Jack 9, so I know I have the nuts on one side. On the other board, yes, I lose to 8-7, but that's just one type of hand I lose to, and realistically, it's much more likely they have either a worse 2 pair or some kind of draw. I pot it once again here on the turn, $400 to go. My opponent moves all in, I snippety snap call, and I get a perfect brick on the top board so none of the draws get in, and also my top boat remains the nuts on the other board. I'm good, and I scoop the pot. I have top boat on that one and King 9 over here.
Thanks, Paul. It's like 2 pair.
Some good turns. Just a quick warning for people that are new to PLO bomb pots. You don't scoop it very often. Next hand, it folds to my button, and I open it up with the King 8-7-6 double suited, a hand that I'm almost certainly you're supposed to open, but I really have no fucking idea because I play no limit hold'em. The big blind calls, and we take a flop of 7-5-4 with 2 spades. It's so much less happy when you have these kinds of hands in Omaha because you're only going to have the nuts on basically no runouts. Either way, the big blind checks, and I bet 2/3 pot, and he check calls. The turn comes the 8 of clubs, which you can't see because I don't know how to vlog. This isn't a very good card for me because even though I have a straight, obviously now I'm just playing the simple straight on the board and I no longer have the nuts. My opponent checks, and here it's still a pretty good situation to bet. Yes, if my opponent has 9-6, I'm in a lot of trouble. However, I do have top 2, so I can improve the top boat in an 8 or 7. And also, I still have a straight, and there are many draws that will call. My opponent checks, and I bet something like half pot. Again, I should probably start learning these bet sizes, but again, I'm a noob and trying to learn how to vlog. My opponent makes the check call. The river comes the 3 of clubs, completing the backdoor flush, and my opponent leads out for $500. Now, in this situation, my thought process is as follows. Not a lot of words, it's mainly just raw motion. After the anger begins to subside, I start to think about my hand and my removal. Well, I don't have any spades, and that's good. However, I also don't have any clubs, and that's bad. I also do have an 8 and a 7, which might be some of the kinds of hands my opponent would bluff with, so that's probably not great. However, I don't think my opponent will be bluffing with a set too often here to try and get a straight to fold, so it probably doesn't matter too much. At this point, I think that the best solution will be to get good hands for the vlog, so I call, and my opponent had the Ace-King 9-3 with 2 clubs. He was doing quite well on the flop. He could hit backdoor clubs. Just kind of your classic cooler setup. Moving on. I'm looking through this footage, and I don't even know how many of these are usable, but I'll go ahead and tell a story of what I think happened in the next hand. This hand opens with a player raising and a couple guys calling, and I decided to 3-bet in position with the Ace King, Queen 10, Ace 10 of spades. Sorry, no, King 10 of clubs. I believe. My thumb was in the way. I think that's a club. A bunch of players make the call, and we see a 5-way flop with our hand. The flop becomes 10-9-5 all spades, so we flop just the nut flush draw blocker. However, we do also have top pair. It checks to the player to my right, and he decides to go for a small lead, which I find kind of interesting because I know he does not have the nuts or the nuts blocker, so I'm not exactly sure why he's leading. At this point, we raise him up, 3x his bet, so he bets 100, we make it 300 to go. It folds back around, and he does make the call. At this point, I'm not entirely sure what he has, maybe some kind of middling to higher flush. I don't think sets would lead, but that's certainly possible. The turn comes the queen, which is actually kind of a phenomenal bluff card. Now, if our opponent does have something that has us beat, like a middling flush, well, we at least have some equity with our bluff. Our opponent checks, and we decide to bet the full size of the pot, which is getting close to $1,000. He thinks for a bit and lets it go and says he has a set. So things worked out here, making a play with the nut flush draw blocker. I would assume in PLO you can't always do this, but it seems like you should sometimes, and I'm a pretty sputastic player, so why not now? Next hand, I'm in the double straddle with Queen Jack 10-4 double suited. Not a great PLO hand by any stretch, even though it's double suited. Some players call and the action gets to me in the double straddle. I decided to pot it because I want to show the guy to my left my whole cards and gamble a little bit. The action folds all the way around to the guy to my right, who I managed to talk into making a light call.
Oh, God.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
One more quarter. Thank you.
I got it. All right. Nice. Okay.
Check.
Nice. I like the check. My opponent does make the call pre-flop, probably to avoid the fish leaving the table, and the flop comes ace-7-5 with 2 diamonds. Yahtzee, we've got absolutely nothing. My opponent checks the flop, and I decide to bet small on the flop. This is the kind of board that a lot of my hands that would raise pre-flop would hit if I was playing correctly, which I'm not. At this point, my opponent thinks about it and does decide to make the check call, and we see a turn. The turn comes an offsuit deuce, and my opponent checks once again. I have completely nothing on this board, and I have no removal that's in any way favorable to make a bluff. However, I do think my opponent's going to have a lot of weak hands I can apply some pressure to, so I decide to go ahead and pot it, which leaves him just a couple $100 behind once this bet would be called. At this point, I can only imagine what the guy to my left is thinking after seeing my cards, looking at this board, and seeing this complete tomfoolery that's going on. My opponent thinks for a little bit and does end up making the call. We see a river with basically $0 behind. The river pairs the 7, meaning we have officially queen high, but all of the draws have bricked. My opponent checks over to me, and I decide to jam for $200, praying I somehow get a fold. My opponent tanks for a bit and ends up showing his cards, and holy shit, I actually had the best hand. Unbelievable. I was scanning his cards, seeing how I lose, but I just win. I was actually value betting the river because he bricked with a truly incredible draw. He had 9, 8, 6, 4, so he makes the straight on a 9, an 8, a 6, a 4, or a 3. I actually thought he had the flush draw at the time, so maybe the draw wasn't quite as good as I thought, but still, very nice to see this board brick out, and I think he has the nut low. 9, 8, 6, 3. Yeah, he basically has the nut low. All in all, a very well played hand by me, and if you want to learn how to play Pot Limit Omaha like the best of them, I'd recommend heading over to Upswing Poker where you can learn from other coaches that aren't me, because holy shit, what am I doing? You should please not learn from me. I play a few more hands, including one where I make a silly $5 min raise on the river, because sometimes you just have to do it. Anyway, at this point I rack up. I think I'm down something or up something. Again, I should probably track this a little bit better, and I head over for the live stream. Okay, so we just wrapped up the PLO session, lost several hundred being a sputastic idiot, and now we're going to be playing a little 5-5-10 on stream. So, yeah, let's do it. If you guys want to watch the stream, I'll put a link in the description below. And by the way, every Wednesday I will be either playing or commentating on the stream. Every Friday, I'm just going to be playing a high-stakes game at the Lodge. We're going to start with 5-10, and we're going to try and do 10-20 or 25-50. I'm going to see what the climate is like, what kind of stakes that we can get going. But I'm going to try and vlog Fridays. I think those games will probably be the best ones to vlog. Action kicks off on the stream with everyone buying in for 1K, and immediately someone getting stacked on the actual first hand, and everyone buying into 2K because this has matched the stack. In a way, one player died, so we all could live. The theme of this session is going to be Jack 10 of hearts. I played 2 big pots with this hand. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first. Our hand begins with me in the double straddle with Jack 10 suited. Under the gun opens to $60 with ace queen offsuit. Under the gun +1, 3 bets with pocket 9s. Folds me in the double straddle with Jack 10 suited. I think this is a weird spot. I would say you should probably do a mixture of folding and 4-betting, probably mainly folding and mixing in a little bit of 4-betting from time to time. You're not going to want to be making too many calls here out of position. So we do end up deciding to make the 4-bet. Myself and Salon Boy have about 2K behind effective, so there should be something around a 100-ish big blind pot, given the fact that it's double straddled. Looks like we're actually more like 2.5K, so maybe 125 bigs to start the hand. The action goes $60 from ace queen, 200 from the pocket 9s, and we come in cold with the Jack 10 suited. I make it 550 to go. My goal here is to try and deny the pot odds of calling in position by making this price kind of expensive. When you do that, you can't bluff quite as much because you are risking more, and if your opponent jams, they have a better price on what they win if you fold. However, you do deny some hands the chance to call that might otherwise not want to, so I think this is probably a good idea out of position to 4-bet a little bit bigger, and when you're in position, you 4-bet a bit smaller. Ace queen lets it go, and now the pocket 9s does end up deciding to make the call. Let's go ahead and take the flop. The flop comes Jack 8-6 rainbow. Great flop. I now have top pair, and I can start to slow things down a little bit. The reason it's nice to check with some hands like top pair here is sometimes I'm going to have ace king, ace queen, and I don't want to be obvious when I check I just have those overcard hands. I think with top pair here, you should do a mixture of betting small and checking. This time we decide to play it tricky, and we check it over to our opponent. He decides to check back, and we take a turn. The turn comes at 10, creating a backdoor flush draw, and I just realized that it's probably better for the vlog to not show my opponent's cards. We'll try that on the next hand. Either way, this is a big card for both of us. We have the Jack 10 top 2 pair, and our opponent picks up an open-ended straight draw. At this point, I want to build this pot and get some value, as well as deny if my opponent has some kind of straight draw, which he does. I decided to go for the small bet of just $450, setting up a reasonable sized river jam. My opponent does decide to make the call with his pocket nines and open-ended, certainly the standard play, and we take a river. I feel like I'm starting to bring out my poker hands voice. It's a different voice for that. Things to think about. The river comes the 4, completing the backdoor flush, and we decide to jam. Not my favorite river of all time here. Obviously, there are hands that will beat us now. If he has said he was ahead already, and of course, if he has a hand like ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen of clubs, any of those kinds of hands, he's ahead now too. He also can have ace-jack of clubs, king-jack of clubs, queen-jack of clubs. A bunch of hands here are now beating us. Not an amazing river for us. Maybe it's better to go with a small bet on the river. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, I do decide to jam, and now my opponent has a tough spot with the 9s with the club. Ultimately, he ends up making the right play and laying it down, and although we don't get paid off on the river, we do collect the nice-sized pot to get the stream going. Our next hand begins with a double straddle, and we're going to keep our opponent's hand to be a total mystery for this one. I look down at Jack 10 suited, and I open it up in the cutoff. Definitely a hand you're going to want to open, and it's even the same suits as before, so I feel a little bit of lucky energy sort of percolating on this hand. My arch nemesis at this point, Salon Boy, does decide to 3-bet out of the small blind, and frankly, I've been battling the Salon for many years, not just at the table tonight. Back over to me now with Jack 10 suited. This is a lot different than before. It's a very nice place to call and play some post flop. We're going to play some poker with about 125 big blinds effective, so certainly a situation where we can use our positional advantage. We do make the call. Let's take the flop. The flop comes ace-9-4, and my opponent makes a small bet, just $150 on the flop. With the backdoor flush draw, as well as some great turn cards that can improve my playability, like an 8 or a queen, obviously a jack or a 10, as well as the hearts, and chances to bluff later streets, I do decide to make the call. This is a very cusp hand, though. I think that it's certainly reasonable to fold versus this size, and if our opponent bets much smaller, you're definitely going to want to continue. If you bet much bigger, you have an easy laydown. So yes, we have a classic poker hands edition type hand. You can do whatever you want with this one. The turn comes to 3 of spades, completing the flush, and my opponent checks over to me. Now, I thought about this hand afterwards, and I think I make a mistake here. I think this is the best kind of hand to check turn bluff river. Here's why. When I have 2 hearts, my opponent is less likely to have the kinds of hands that would bet flop, check, fold, turn. So, if my opponent had a hand like, let's just say, Jack 10 of hearts himself, he would probably bet the flop, and he would check, fold the turn. Well, when I have 2 hearts, he's now less likely to have those kinds of hands. He's more likely to have hands with a spade in them that can continue when they do decide to check. So I think in retrospect, I should check the turn, bluff the river, rather than fire the turn. But I do end up deciding to go ahead and bet here on the turn, setting myself up for a river jam. My opponent thinks it over, makes a check call, and let's take a river. The river comes an offsuit 6. My opponent checks over to me. I think at this point we have a hand that very much does like to jam. The reason why river jam is good is some of the reasons why the turn is bad. My opponent is very likely to have a hand with a spade in it that bricked out on the river, so we don't block any of the kinds of hands that could check call and then check fold when they don't improve. Because of this, I think this hand is a mandatory all-in if you do bet the turn. And the thing I would say here, guys, is sometimes you're going to make mistakes in the moment, in real time, but don't let that prevent you from being willing to put in that next barrel and put all your chips in to take that pot down. So I do decide to go all in, and then I decide to wear these stupid fucking glasses, and of course I get picked off, table the bluff, and get stacked right here. Yep, that's right, guys. Go with your instincts, because good stuff can happen, I guess. For the rest of the stream, I don't get too many hands. I mainly card dead and punt off chips. Anyway, it ends on this pretty sweet note. I told the table that if they straddled around to me, I will put on the 7th straddle to $620. Let's just roll the clip. Pretty devastating to get pocket 7s in the 5th straddle, and you're just, pretty dead against the pocket 8s, while somebody on the side lets you know one of your outs is dead.
Pocket 8s versus pocket 7s. For $5,600. Biggest pot of the night.
You got one out. You got one out.
Great. Love to hear it.
This is the biggest pot?
Yep. TM.
We've seen one-outers in the last hand before. I've seen it.
Oh, you could switch out to
We need a 5 or a 10 to get some kind of sweat here.
There's a jack. Doug looking for a 7.
Anyway, when it was all said and done, I'd lost about $7,000. We did play a little more at the table, including a Texas special, everyone stands up, and you can only sit down once you win a pot. Last person standing has to pay everyone at the table some sort of bounty. Oh, God damn it. You know what? I call.
No.
How dead am I? That's sounding pretty good.
A pair of jacks.
Oh, you have a pair? A pair? Do him dirty. Give him the 6. Oh, great. Just punting off money for the vlog here. Just take it all. Ship it in. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the first edition of my vlog. Why is that so funny, everybody? That wraps up my first live vlog at the lodge. My first vlog. That seems catchy. It's going to catch on. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, slap a thumbs up on this, give it a like. I appreciate all of the feedback, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think, how I can improve this and make it better. And if you want to come out to the lodge, I'll be there every Wednesday and Friday. I'll see you there, and I'll make sure to vlog my next session.